Okay, let's start. I want you to guess the name of the topic based on certain hints. Yeah, it's alternative investment. What is the topic that we're dealing with? So I have few names here. Yes, private equity, correct. Now, what I thought before we start, we'll just get ourselves acquainted in terms of how the industry operates, who are the big players. So that might help us develop a better perspective on it. So I picked up few random companies, no logic per se, and then few of the important investments. So Excel Partners started with Facebook, not started with invested in Facebook, Groupon, Dropbox, Angry Birds, Flipkart. Now the second one is more interesting. Now these are the companies. You guess which firm we are talking about. हाँ कौन था ये? Yes, Apple, Google, Zomato, PayPal, Instagram, Cisco, Oracle, Yahoo, Secure Capital. So the whole idea with private equity is that you have to fund private limited or private companies, help them grow business, and probably at some day hope that company would list itself through an IPO and exit the company. So this is a topic extremely interesting, very practical. First LOS, that how will a private equity firm or how a private equity firm would create value for the companies. The first part, so how this reading has been generally discussed is that they've used, so what we typically do is that we say that either VC or PE, isn't it? For slightly bigger established companies we go for PE, otherwise we go for VCs. How they've used nomenclature here, that if you're an investor into private company, then it's private equity. Then it can be of two types, either it can be VC or it can be buyouts. And of course we know that a VC would mean that you're investing at very early stage of your business, right? And there are different types of VCs again. And a buyout would mean that you're looking at more of an established company with established cash flows and EBITDAs and other variables. Certain stages of venture capital. You may want to make a quick note of these stages. The first one is seed, very initial days of business. You are funding actually to do some market research and develop, formulate a good business idea. Then startup stage, a stage further. Financing with well articulated business idea. Expansion. Now here you're financing for expansion here. The company is already doing okay. And replacement, that if the company is levered or the company has taken funding from some other VC, you just replace that with your funding. Again, very generic and broad terms. Should we move on? Buyout has largely been categorized into three segments. Acquisition capital, financing a company to acquire another company. LBOs and MBOs, which we've anyways discussed several times in the past. Leverage buyouts and management buyouts. Yes, you want to ask anything, Ankit? Should we move on? Okay. Now, there was an interesting discussion I found out in curriculum, which said that so the whole industry is made of either VC or buyouts. So what would be the relative size of VC in the whole industry? Is it 30%, 60%, 80%? So the VC transaction accounts for about 20% of the whole industry and 80% is the buyout transactions. Now can you guess why? Can you guess why VCs would be? This is 20% of the size of total investment, and this is 80% of size of total investment. Generally, the size for VC funding would be substantially smaller than buyout. Right? At times, the buyout can be really, really large. For example, Flipkart wasn't a buyout, but the recent funding of Flipkart, since the company has grown to such a large scale, the amount of funding would also be very high. Which means the size of deals in case of buyouts would be really large compared to venture capital, and which itself tells you that this accounts for about 80% of the whole market share. Let's start with the first theory always. How does the private equity help create value in an organization? Number one, ability to re-engineer. Okay, so what does it mean? You're a small private company. When you go to a investor, a PE investor, at times or most of the time you don't go only because you want funding. At times you also go because you want that management expertise from this company, the networking benefits of this company. So when they invest in your company, you offer them some space on your board of directors. So let's say one PE gentleman would come and become a board of director for your company. Now most of the PE firms, the big ones, the names that we saw at the beginning on first slide, Blackstones or Carlyle, they have a team of management specialists. Okay, so these people can be either CEOs or the people who have substantial management experience. They would look at your business and they will start offering you specific advices, and then that gives you ability to re-engineer the firm, ability to obtain debt financing on a favorable term purely because of contacts of these PE firms will bring with them, and then superior alignment of interest between management and private equity ownership. Are we good to move? Here, so what it basically means is that imagine now a private company, the management is most of the time entrepreneurs, right? And there's a good possibility that, so we saw in the previous reading as well, there's a good possibility that someone would buy a car for himself and put it on the company's name. But then here when a private equity person is sitting on your board of director, you would be more forced to act in the best interest of the company. So alignment of interest.